without crossing without checker flag. That's a fine. Awesome drive, man. Awesome drive.
It's nice to close out a race like that. That was awesome.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and as always, alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. If it's your first time listening, this podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself has been providing news, notes, and analysis to fans on social media since 2014. So go ahead and pull those belts tight and hang on as we throw the green flag on our recap of Ryan Blaney's run in the Ally 400 at Nashville Superspeedway. Steve, welcome back. It's been more than a week since a couple weeks now since we last recorded a podcast. We actually went ahead and went along with the Cup Series schedule, and we took an off week last week, and I think we're well rested and we're ready to go. And man, this was and I think we needed after, especially following along this race that happened on Sunday that turned into basically an all-nighter for us.
You took an off week. I was here last Tuesday. I sat here.
I didn't see it.
I stared at my computer for a couple hours thinking something was going to happen, and it didn't happen.
Oh, well,
it's kind of like Charlie Brown.
Well, I would like to see the outtakes from that. Maybe we'll get that one posted. But yeah, like I said, welcome back. It was interesting having that week off, but then NASCAR goes back to Nashville Superspeedway with the Cup Series for the second time in a row. And all I have to say, I wanted to save this for later on, but my horrible idea that I think would be amazing. Now, based on what we saw this weekend with the rain and the concrete at Nashville, is that they need to tear up all of the pavement at Daytona International Speedway and replace it with concrete, because all the rain delays that I've sat through at Daytona over the years, that concrete at Nashville seemed like it dried in like 15 minutes. So I say tear up the pavement at Daytona. Let's throw the concrete down so that way we can get the show on the road.
I didn't realize it actually does dry a lot faster.
It dries super fast. It was insane. And even at night, it was great. So I'm saying that, just as a joke, because I don't want people calling or tweeting or DMing me about how that wouldn't be the place to do for such a sacred place for racing. But man, you can't deny that the way that stuff dried pretty quickly. And it happened, I think, ahead of the Xfinity Series race. And then obviously during this race, we had several weather delays, and really only once where it really downpoured. Yeah,
it was kind of weird that for qualifying on Saturday, we get to that part of it happened. And then I go to do something and come back figuring, okay, round 2, and then it rained. I'm like, what the heck? I didn't even know it was in the forecast. And then, I just wasn't paying good enough attention to Bob. That's what it comes down to. Bob had it out there on his Twitter for sure. If you follow Bob Pockross, you have to follow Bob Pockross, because he not only gives you everything you need to know about the race, but he gives you the weather too. He finds a good, accurate forecast. He'll put radars up, and we knew exactly what was going on Sunday, thanks to him. So.
But I would have to say, again, after that off week, I know the trucks raced at Knoxville, but after that off week there, going to Nashville from the Truck Series race to the Xfinity Series race to the Cup race, I think there's plenty of excitement, drama along the way, and just overall good racing, and it was good to see. So why don't we just go ahead and jump into this recap of Ryan Blaney's run over the weekend in the Ally 400 at Nashville Superspeedway.
Yeah, they did practice a little bit different this week. They did it Friday with qualifying Saturday, and it was kind of weird because it didn't look good. It really just didn't look good. The Toyotas come out really strong. Bubba Wallace looked great in practice on Friday, but Ryan's runs, P10 about 5 minutes in, 7 minutes in, P14, but it was only 2.232 back of the lead, so it was still close. But even like long range speed, when they ran 5 and 10 lap averages, he was still like 4th or 5th best, which, so
we didn't really know what to expect either, because I know they were in a totally different car last year, but you have to remember this is the race where they had some issues even before the race started, and then I think he had a brake failure, and so they were out of the race real quick. So they had no notebook for the next gen car anyway, but they really had no notebook for this race at all.
a lot of them were comparing things to Dover because Dover's concrete and it's just a bigger version of Dover as far as they were concerned. But even at that, they were going to be shifting, which is a whole other thing too. So, but about 19 minutes into the second time out, he did get up to P6. So they went in, they made some changes. They didn't change the tires per se. So they got quicker on tires, so that, they jumped up pretty good there. 25 minutes in, those 1 to 23 jumps up to P1. And I don't know if people were watching, but it shouldn't just jump up there. He was 0.2 faster than the next car. And I thought, would they do a qualifying run or something? And it really wasn't. It was just, they were that much faster.
Yeah, the Toyotas as a whole were fast. Bubba Wallace was probably the fastest car all weekend long. And we'll see how that shakes out a little bit later.
Yeah. So when the practice ended, he was 8th fastest, and it was 0.308 tenths of a second back of Wallace once again. So, and it was really, Bubba was like I said, about 2 tenths ahead of the next car. So really the between 2nd and 8th was all within like a 10th. So that, he was pretty competitive to everybody else in the field at that point. Qualifying Saturday, Ryan was in Group B, going out 17th in that group. The top 5 in Group A ended up being the 11, the 99, the 1, the 20, and the 19. There were no Fords in that top 5 in the first group, so it was looking kind of scary right off the bat. They get to Group B. The 18 spun it out in 3 and 4, which, these guys are still, they're still going the best they can, but the cars are a little scary still. And he did back it into the wall too. And Josh and Ryan basically discussed on the radio what happened there, so they kind of knew what not to do. He says he was shifting and caught behind on the steering. He was like one-handed in turns 3 and 4, trying to do his upshift. So, and I noticed at this point when Ryan does go out, he's got an in-car camera for the weekend, which is just awesome for me. And Group B's top 5 was the 22, the 5, the 9, the 12, and the 4. So there were 3 Fords that made it in that Group B, which was great. And like I said, I went to go take care of the dog actually for a minute, figuring, okay, and they're going to do they get a little break that they give them so that they can kind of equal out the adjustments and the time everything cools and everything. And I come back and it was rain all over the place.
And from what I understand, it was like one little blip on the radar. It was one of those situations where, again, I mentioned the rain delays we've been through all the time, to where there was basically a 0% chance of rain, but they somehow found the racetrack. The one rain cloud found the racetrack, and then it just kind of washes out the rest of qualifying. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. I couldn't remember how it worked in this qualifying system, but luckily Ryan still ends up in the top 10. They don't just totally scrap all the times, because all cars did at least make a run.
Yeah, this is kind of a cool thing, because they could have done it by owner's points at that point or whatever, but they did. Everybody had completed a lap, so that's how they did it. Put all the times together. P6 and the 11 on the pole, and I think the Joey was actually P2. So when you put all those times together, it meshed pretty good. They had even though they were 4th out of the Group B, they were 6th best total. So we get to race day. We got stages of 90, 185, and 300, 9 sets of tires. Fuel run, they figure about 68 to 73 laps. And tire wear was kind of interesting. They made sure that they didn't have a lot of wear or a lot of fall off. So some of the pit strategies as the race goes on are more about just fuel than anything else.
It's also worth noting that, and I think this might have been the first track they used the resin product on last year. I know that like PJ1 was the big thing for the last couple of years, and this resin product is still made by that same company, but it works differently. And so they used it on the track last year. It had a lot of success. This year, they actually used it from, like, I guess, in the turns from the bottom all the way up to the wall. And I would have to say, again, I talked about just briefly about the Xfinity and truck races being good, especially on restarts and things like that. You saw guys get up to 4 wide, and in certain cases that didn't work, but it made things exciting. So I think the resin was successful again, but just the way the concrete tracks work with rubber and tire wear, and it's just a little bit of a different animal.
They had pit stall 41 which was kind of interesting. I was reading about it, and the way it was set up, it's the last pit stall on pit road, and they could actually technically drive through boxes that were behind them, even though there were 2 or 3 boxes behind them. There was no penalty if they went 2 or 3 boxes behind them. So this actually ended up being an advantage, because you can come into the pit, hit that box, line yourself up the way you want to line up. The 47 was going to be the box in front of them, and they really didn't have any issues going around that 47 most of the race, which is good. And not having to worry about anybody in front of you, or that you're getting in front of either, is also pretty good. So, and I've noticed they've done this a couple times now when they've not had pole position, but a good enough thing to pick. They've picked that last one on pit road, and it actually seems to work pretty well for them. So that we get to the start here, and after 2 laps, he shakes out the P9. Once again, these restarts, there are some grip, but if just one guy in your line kind of gets a little squirrely and you're not able to get around him, it stacks up your line a little bit. And lap 4, he's talking already about being tight in the center. So being in traffic is mainly part of this. As you notice, when the race went on, as guys got loose and got out front and got into clean air, they had no problem. But by lap 20, he's starting to catch the next 3 in front of him. And the 11's leading this whole time. Lap 22, he does pass the 4 car, gets to 8th. And he just mainly says he needs tightened up at this point. He says a couple of numbers, but I think he kind of backs off that a little bit. Lap 28, he passes the 22 to get to 7th. Lap 30, he's a little over 10 seconds back of the leader. So 30 laps, 7th position. He's not real far back. They're not checking out on him, basically. Lap 35, he passes the 9 car, gets to 6th. And lap 40, about 11 and a half seconds back of the lead, but about 4 seconds back of the 5th position, which is the 5 car. So it did kind of get spread out at this point, and it's harder to gain on somebody. And at lap 41, we get a caution for the 77, which then actually turns into a caution for Lightning. And it's kind of interesting because TV covers it. Okay, we've got a lightning strike. We have to be 30 minutes. But it's actually better to go to Twitter at this point, because there was a second lightning strike, and they told you right away on there that it's going to reset the clock and so on and so forth. And TV well, we're going to talk to this person, talk to that person, and not necessarily let you know where they are in this delay. But finally, I would have put a clock on the screen, a countdown clock.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking,
keep letting it reset.
Yeah. Okay. We're at 30 minutes, and then a countdown. Oh, we had another lightning strike. Reset at the 30 minutes. And then you can see it, like, oh, okay, well, this is the problem,
Yeah. And I would say, again, just like all the other rain delays that follow us around, we sat through plenty of lightning delays as well. And while it can be frustrating when you're at the track, because it's like, the storm system is away from the track, and you can see the lightning, but you have to be really careful. There was an incident at Pocono a few years ago where someone did lose their life, I think in the parking lot, from a lightning strike at the racetrack. So NASCAR takes this very seriously. I have to say much more seriously than a lot of the short tracks that I attend around here, where, we set our own lightning clock and go back to our car until we know it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
But this is important, and it can be frustrating when you're watching at home when it's not raining, because that's the biggest thing. That's the thing we always think about with weather delays in NASCAR. It's because of rain. In this case, it was a storm system that was kind of skirting the racetrack, but we can't put the drivers and the crews and the fans at risk. So I applaud them for that. And but unfortunately, it wasn't going to be the only delay of the night.
Yeah. So I think it was about 6:45 Eastern time when they finally did get back to the cars. And they go ahead and pit at this point. He was 6th going into pit and come out 4th. First choose cone of this. After this, the leader of the 11 took the bottom. Ryan took the bottom. And the 1 car, as they were coming to the choose cone, dove into the pits. So actually, Ryan was P3 for this restart at lap 50. He does get passed by the 4 car on the restart, and then we get a caution for the 48, and the 24 has an issue also. this all happened really quick after the restart. So
real bad lap for Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah.
Losing basically two cars. Byron was able to come back, but I think he broke something in the steering. And then the 48 actually had a super long pit stop, and they were doing one of those. There's not a lot of adjustments you can do to these cars, but they're doing that one where they have to pull the hood up and then actually make adjustments to the shock, through the engine compartment. So, they, I guess, had just started the race off really, really bad, put a huge swing at it, and then came out on the track. And I know there was some contact there between the 48 and the 7 of Corey LaJoie. So, and there's been talk about that this week as well. So unfortunate for the car, that they had the title sponsorship of the race, and I'm sure Alex Bowman wanted to contend for a win there. But bad lap for Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah. The Corey LaJoie stuff was pretty funny. Once again, following Twitter, literally during the next delay, there's some things that go on between them. So they're staying out for this one here. The second choose going the leader, the 11 takes the bottom. Ryan in P4 takes the top. So starting in row 2 there, restarting at lap 55, sorts out the P4 after the restart. Lap 59, he's talking about being too tight now. And just, once again, like I said, I think a lot of this is traffic and being a dirty air. We get to a caution at lap 61 for the 42 and the 14. Both cars do drive off after hitting each other. So it looked for a second like they weren't, but then all of a sudden they just both started up and peeled off the track away from the safety trucks. So once again, we're staying out here. The leader, the 11, takes the bottom. Ryan in 4th takes the top again. Restart. He sorts out to 3rd this time as the 19 takes the lead. At lap 70, he's in 3rd, and he's about 2 seconds back of the 19 and 1.3 back of the 11 car. And, once again, clean air now. He's running better lap times in that clean air, hanging with those guys. 10 laps later, he's still only about 3.7 back of the 19. And the 19 and the 11 are actually battling up there near the front. So lap 90, we get the end of the stage. 19 does win the stage. Ryan finishes 3rd. Pretty good points right off the bat, and it moved their way up in the field a little bit. So it looked like pretty good there at the beginning. Jonathan and Ryan talk about loosening it up a bit with the track cooling. They do pit going in 3rd, coming out 3rd. The 22 took 2 tires at this point, trying a little gamble there. So the 22 is the leader here for the choose cone. He takes the bottom. Ryan takes the bottom behind him. They restart laps 96, and the 19 actually takes the lead. Ryan works his way around the 22 and gets himself up to 2nd. So this is, at this point, I'm thinking, well, this is it. This is the way the rest of the day is going to go. We're going to have to chase this guy down all day, and the Toyotas look strong, but at least Ryan's the top Ford and maybe can make something happen. At lap 100, he's 0.25 back of the leader. And he's a couple hundreds faster than him. Hundreds, not tenths, but still, enough to maybe, if you run some consistent laps, get there. At lap 110, he's 0.45 back, and they're running equal times at this point, and they're searching different lines. So if you're watching, you get great coverage because he's running 2nd, and we're chasing the leader, and you're close enough to the leader where something can happen. But if you've got a chance to pull up the in-car, it's even better because the in-car is off the front of the car, sometimes down low, but sometimes off the top of the car. And you can definitely see going into a turn where that car in front of him goes, and then the line you pick. And then when that car comes off of the turn, where does he come down when he comes off of the turn versus if you're running the lower line, where do you meet him? And there were a couple times where you watched Ryan coming off of 2, and he just got closer to him all of a sudden, because he just ran a better corner. And it's really kind of a cool thing to watch. Once again, I'm all for them just, putting all those channels out on, let's say, Peacock next year, and I'll buy my driver's channel, Lap 118, we get a caution for the rain.
Yep.
And Jonathan's like, they were talking about doing the here. This was just a short, brief little thing. And he says, probably going to do red. I'm not sure what red was for their pit there. Ryan says 10-4. They're pitting in 2nd. They come out 2nd. This was another 10-second stop. I wrote that down because all of them were right around 10.
Yep.
9.5 or something like that is the big number that a lot of guys are trying to get to. I think they showed the pit stop of the week was Logano. It was like 9.8 or something like that. So, right around 10 is really good stop as long as everything is, on and in one piece. Jonathan says he does the air pressure adjustment to 3 of the tires to keep balance. So now we're getting down to the point where we're like adjusting instead of one side or the other or front or rear, we're adjusting 3 of 4 tires, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. The Chusco and the leader takes the top. So Ryan, of course, takes the bottom on this. They restart lap 125, and they're side by side for a couple of laps. And it's a really nice battle to watch because it looks like a couple different times that Truex is going to pull away and then come off the turn once again. Like I said, Ryan squares up with him going down backstretch and
does lead a lap.
Yeah, he did get one there. So, it's kind of cool. He got, and then the 11 and the 19.
Yeah, the 11 kind of joins the party and kind of messes things up.
He messes it all up. And lap 128, then he gets kind of passed by those guys. So lap 130, the 18 gets by, and Ryan is P4 behind the 3 of the 4 Gibbs cars there. So, and he's talking about being plowing tight now. But you know what? He may have used up a lot of stuff trying to race with those guys. Because the truth is, if you can get to the front, and then just tick off your laps and conserve yourself a little bit, you could be out there for a while, as some of these guys prove. Lap 131, he's back to P5 as the 19 and the 11 are battling for the lead. But 5th place at this point is still 1.5 seconds back of first. So really not far back either. At lap 135, the 20 passes Ryan's P6. So now you've got all 4 of the Gibbs cars up in the top 5. Lap 139, we get a caution for lightning. And then we get rain on this too. And I got a note here, the race will resume. It says 10, they were trying for 10 p.m. Eastern here because of based on which would be 9 o'clock their time. And they've got a curfew there. I think they said it was like noon or midnight or 1 a.m. they had to be done by. So they knew if they drive the track by a certain hour and with the number of laps they had left, but they were actually only 10 laps short of halfway. So it's another interesting little thing of a lot of people like, well, if they would have just started earlier. Yeah, if they would have started earlier, this would have been the end of the race.
Yeah, I'd heard a lot of things. I heard about that initial, people went all the way back to the initial caution where they threw for Josh Bilicki in the 77 car. That are like that people compared to, because the caution or the non-call on a caution that happens at the end of this race, they were saying was way worse than what happened with Bilicki early on. They're like, oh, if they just don't call that caution, the race probably would have been done. They most likely would have called it at that point. So I'm glad that they didn't, and I'm glad that we did. I mean, it did go pretty late into the night here, but I'm glad they were able to keep going.
Yeah, this it's really eventful if you can stay up late, so we do get you have to follow Twitter. That's the other thing, because things change from this network to that network. We're watching Law and Order SVU, and then all of a sudden, we missed the ending, dun dun, and right to the race. But I already had on the audio, so I knew that Josh was counting down like 2 minutes to the cars and all that stuff. So they go ahead and stay out. A few people do pit, and for the restart, the leader of the 11 takes the top. Ryan takes the bottom. He's in 4th at this point because a couple cars in front of him did pit. We restart lap 151, and he sorts out to 4th place at this point. Lap 153, the 19 passes the 11, so they swap the lead back and forth a couple times. Ryan is still running 4th at this point, but if you look at the lineup, it's the 11, the 19, the 18, Ryan in 4th, and then the 45 now is in 5th. So like I said, all the Toyotas are all right there, and he's the only Ford, and there's no Chevy to be found at this point either. Lap 160, he's 1.2 back of 3rd place, which is the 18 car, and 2.5 back of the leader. So once again, 4th place is not that far back. If you can get some good laps together, maybe somebody bobbles. Lap 168, the 45 passes. So now he's back to 5th at lap 171. We have I think the 19 actually takes the lead at this point, and then the 1 passes Ryan So Ryan's in 6th, and at lap 173, here comes the 9 car. This rain delay actually helped them totally. They ended up being the fastest car at this point and the rest of the night. Ryan's back to 7th here. And he's talking about no rotation on the throttle. And at lap 178, the 5 passes, Ryan's back to 8th. So the end of stage 2, he does get passed by one more car here, ends up 9th with the 19 winning stage 2. The 4 was actually the car passed him on the last lap. So I went from 8th to 9th. Once again, got a stage point or two by the end of the stage, but definitely you saw some coming and going based on what happened with the weather, the track conditions, the washing off of the rubber, cooling off of the track, and how quickly some of these teams were able to adjust to it. Their setups were, the 9 car setup was definitely better for the cooler conditions. So Ryan's talking about being too tight. He's got to free it up. And I guess it says, like we talked about. So definitely while they were in that delay, they talked about what they were going to have to do to the car. And Jonathan asks him to give him a number. Ryan says 2. So like I said, I'm not sure. They do that every once in a while with these numbers, like half, and they'll say 1 or 2. So I'm not sure how much, if they're talking about rounds of wedge or whatnot, but they definitely have a system between the two of them of what it means for the adjustment. They're pitting in 9th, and something happens there, and they have a problem on the left side. And once again, I'm going to refer everybody once again. There's a podcast called Stacking Pennies. It usually comes out somewhere Thursday afternoon. But Ryan's front tire changer, Ryan Flores, is on there, and I'm sure they'll ask him. I'm sure I'll explain it. I'm not going to dive into it too much anymore, since there's somebody who's actually, we'll talk about it each week. So,
as we usually say, unfortunate what happened, because it wasn't just a couple of spots here. It was a dozen or so. And man, that kind of just he was already having a little bit of a handling issue here, lost several spots on the track, and then to lose all that on pit road too is just as we always say, no really other way to describe it but unfortunate. And it's been a while too. I mean, it's been several weeks since they've had an incident like this. Since I think they had a jack problem a few weeks ago, where there's a problem with the jack. So I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, so Jonathan comes on and tells them they put the air back in the right rear and 1 round of wedge. Ends up being 26 for the choose cone here. The leader 19 takes the top. Ryan takes the top. The restart lap 192, and within the first lap, he's passed 3 or 4 cars. He's already up to 21st. Lap 193 up to 20th. Let's see here, 194, 95, 96. He's back to 18th by lap 195. We get a caution at lap 205 for Ryan. Spins it out here. They say that maybe somebody swung too big on the last stop. Maybe they got it too loose. What's great is he does not really back it up. I mean, I think he bumps the wall a little bit here, but doesn't really do any damage. They're still in the lead lap. They don't lose the lap or nothing. So they come in, they can pit.
And I think after the race and possibly during it, he just said he was driving too hard. He was trying to make up for the positions that they lost, and he got loose and just kind of lost the car, but not enough to end the day, which was really good to see. Just kind of scuffed up that rear end of the car. Yeah. So we do end up with a restart lap 209 here. The 18 is leading at this point, taking the top. Ryan takes the top. Ryan was 25th on that restart, but within a lap or two, he's up to 23rd. Lap 211 is up to 22nd. By lap 213 is up to 20th. Lap 217, he says it's too tight now. So it swung the other direction a little bit. But in the next, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 laps. By lap 240, he's up to 17th. Lap 246, the 9 takes the lead at this point, and Ryan is in 16th. And lap 248, we get some green flag pitting, and this is where the fun happens. Tire fall off is not huge here. When it is huge, you want to pit before everybody else, because if it's 2 seconds a lap faster
with fresh tires, and you get in there 2-3 laps before somebody, and you make up 6-8 seconds of ground, and you get a better pit stop than some people. You make up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots sometimes if you do it right. Like I said, the tire fall off was not that huge. So what they decided is what they call go long. And this really, with the new pit stop problems that everybody's having, works perfectly. At lap 260, 12 laps later, they still have not pitted yet, up to P5 at this point.
And I honestly, anytime, I think Paul Wolf, Joey Logano's crew chief, does this a lot. I think he did. Did he do it with this sequence as well?
I think he ended up being one of them. Yes.
Yeah. So Jeremy Bullins also, it's a Penske thing. Sometimes they'll try this strategy just to try to you got to do something. You got to do something different than what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, man, this almost never works out. And I am so glad I was wrong.
It is the 17 car. And there's a lot of controversy about this too, because I don't want to say conspiracy theory things, but there's no way NASCAR wants to have a caution during a green flag cycle, because this is what happens. The 17 loses that wheel. It goes rolling around. It took them a good 20 seconds, 30 seconds before they called a caution. And that wheel was rolling down the front stretch. Maybe the flag man couldn't see it. I don't know. They're saying some different things I've heard already, listening to other podcasts, trying to get a little more information from other people. And a lot of spotters were mad. They saw it and they thought it was definitely dangerous. What happens if one of the guys hits that thing at speed and gets it up in the air? We really don't need that. But what's great about this is the 45 was leading. Ryan was second at this point only 7 cars that had pitted already had gotten back to the lead lap. So they were going to have, even if they pit and those cars stay out, they were going to be in the top 10 at this point, which is what happens. And the 22 car, like you said, I think the 22 car comes in, and when they pit, they took 2 tires because they jumped up there. But Ryan pits since, second, comes out third. When it all sorts out with those other cars coming back to the front when they don't pit, the 18 car takes the top. He's the leader now. Ryan's in 9th at this point. He takes the top. So we restart lap 261. He settles back to 12th at this point, and the 9 had taken the lead. And at lap 266, he passes the 22, gets to 11th. At lap 270, he passes the 2, gets to 10th. Up to lap 272, he gets passes the 6 and gets to 9th. So everything that happened, bad pit stop, spinning out, we're in the top 10, and we're 25 laps from the end of the race. So, and
I was totally happy. I was like, all right, amazing rebound. We're going to get some good points here. Going to click off another top 10 for the year. You got the stage points from both stages. This is going to be a good race. And then we get a caution at lap 290 for the 77 car. And here I was worried because Ryan's restarts all race long. For the most part, except for that one where you did get to challenge for the lead there with Truex for a little bit, weren't that stellar. So I was like, oh man, this is going to shuffle us back. Something weird's going to happen. People are going to be, take some huge risks here, and we're going to get shuffled back to like the top 15.
Yeah. The fun part about this is that's the call. Jonathan, we talked earlier about Jonathan going long. Now Jonathan makes the call, body armor. And they may have to change the code word because everybody knows what this means. They're staying out. And the 9, the 45, the 12, the 5, the 2, the 22, the 6, the 20, the 41, the 23 all stayed out. So there's literally like 7 cars behind Ryan stay out, but cars in front of them pitted. And the Toyotas were some of the ones that pitted, and it's just like crazy. What you guys were the fastest cars, and once again, we know the tire fall off is not that good. They were hoping, I guess, that everybody came with them. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, man, for them to dominate nearly the entire race except for the last 30 laps or so.
Yeah.
And man, yeah.
Yeah, when we get
you
to
win some, you lose some, I guess.
Yeah, when we get to the choose cone, the 18 car took 2 tires, so he was the first one off pit road. He lines up 12th on the restart.
That's with 2 tires, not even the benefit of 4.
Right. and it does not work out for him. Now on the radio, Josh, Ryan talk about, Josh says something about Nine's probably going to take the top. Ryan goes, yeah. So they know exactly what they're going to do. And sure enough, Ryan takes the top behind him with the 45 on the inside at the bottom. And Ryan does push the 9 out to the lead. They actually makes a statement. He asks, Josh asks him if he wants him to wave him, which is, I remember something they did at Michigan years ago and on a restart where Chase was in front of Ryan, and Chase would wave him, let him know when he was going to go, or when Ryan says, no, don't do it, because you don't want to let Kurt Busch know what's going on. So they just timed it up really well. He got the good push, got him out there. Now Kurt got a pretty good start on the inside. So Kurt, of course, gets himself into second. Ryan ends up in third at this point. And this was a 296. Only had a couple laps to go. Sorts himself out to third there. The 9 does win, and Ryan takes the checker flag in third position. So really, really good finish to, if you were at 11 o'clock at night watching this thinking, oh, this is going to be a bad night.
Yep.
But by midnight, hey, we'll take third place any day of the week. A win is what you ultimately want. But when you go through what you went through as the night happened, these guys showed a lot of fight. And man, Jonathan made 2 excellent calls, staying out. Really can't figure out what the heck the Toyota guys were thinking.
Yeah.
You hear about these guys have a command center where they get these pit calls from that tell them what to do in these situations, like a cheat card kind of a thing. And I can't see what the Toyotas were all thinking, because the rest of the field's like, we're staying out. Ryan gets that restart. Let's say everybody stays out. Ryan restarts 9th. He picks high, low, whatever he figures out to do based on everybody else in front of him. You're hoping for two or three more restarts. You're hoping that wreck happens. You miss 1 or 2 of the guys. You don't get in the wreck. You pass 2 or 3 guys, but to just drop out of there and not be part of it to begin with, and let other guys get in front of you. Yeah. I didn't quite get that, but I'll take it.
It's one of those things where I did not expect this. Like you mentioned, if you had just been watching the race, just an hour before that or so, you'd be totally confused. And we did see that on our Discord race chat. I was scrolling back through some of that, and there were some people that popped in, like half hour after the race was over or the next morning, and they're like, what the heck happened? The last, I tuned out, just after, they lost all those spots on pit road. How the heck did he finish third? And it's just one of those things you never know what's going to happen. Now that's not always going to happen, so you can't always just get your hopes up. The running long on the pit strategy doesn't always work. Sometimes it goes real bad and you end up a lap down. But in this case, all the dominoes after the spin, every domino after that fell in favor of the 12 team. And they got to come out of here again. I think they finished in the top 5 of the first stage, 9th in the second stage, finished top 5 for the race, getting some really valuable points and stage points, and just setting things up again really nicely just to get that one victory they need to pretty much clinch a playoff spot.
What's great about it is after the pit stop, with the bad pit stop, there was nothing really said. And we hear a lot of frustration. There are other drivers that you definitely heard about during the race that had some problems, and they gave you their frustrations. And we've heard frustrations on the radio this year too. But we're at a point now where they didn't have that. He didn't do that. And then they put their head down and kept going and did what they had to do and got a result. And it's a positive result. So in future, things that happen, they happen to you. If you put your head down and you keep plugging along, good things are still going to happen if you keep trying. So, it just shows you that, you can be a little frustrated. Yeah. You could maybe verbalize something, but the truth is you got to put your head down and try your best to get what you can out of it. And they really, really did. They all maximized everything they could. Ryan, gave that great push on that final restart. Sure. Does he want to pass Chase at some point? Yes. He was hoping, but at that point, it's only 4 laps. Somebody's going to have to wiggle, make a mistake. Maybe Kurt Busch gets into him.
I mean,
you
that's what I
know,
was hoping for. I was hoping, and Kurt, I think even after the race has said like, man, I wish I would have I would have bumped and banged a little bit more there. And I'm like, yeah, I wish you would have too. But it is what it is. And Ryan still comes home with a good finish.
but that's the thing. You take the night or the day and night as a whole, and you get third place out of it. It's really, really good. And the points situation is really, really kind of funky right now. I know everybody's more worried about too many people winning, and so on and so forth. But there's some bonus points and so forth, depending on where you finish in the top five. I think if you finish second in the top five, it's like 10 bonus points. So like if you look at like the playoff lineup right now, Ryan is third place overall in the regular standings. He's only 1 point behind second place, which is the one car. So passes the one car here. He's like, what is it? 32 points back of Chase. Even if he doesn't win a race, it could line up really good for the playoffs. I think they said it was like 10 bonus points if you finish second. So
it's not out of reach. It's not out of reach for the 1 and the 9 to stumble a few races here, and Ryan could still win the regular season championship, which that comes with a boatload of playoff points as well.
And that's an automatic, thing too.
Automatic bid, yeah.
So even if he were to win the regular season without a victory, which it's hard to do, but if it would happen, that's automatic. And like you said, that's automatic bonus points also. So he's already got 4 stage win bonus points too. So, finishing second in the points and making the playoffs is like winning 2 races to begin with. So yeah, this is all stacking up really well, as long as we don't get to that dreaded 16 different winner thing and he's not one of them kind of things. But otherwise, just keep maximizing these great finishes. It's going really well right now. It really is.
Yeah, the 12 team is on a good streak here. I think 3 straight top 6 finishes. And now we are headed. The NASCAR Cup Series, after a couple of weeks in Sonoma, are headed out to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to go road course racing once again for the Quick Trip 250 this Sunday, July 3rd at Road America. Race that you were able to attend last year. I know you had a lot of fun there, and I know there's about 100,000 plus people expected again there this weekend for the race there. You can catch the race at 3 p.m. Eastern time, switching over to the USA Network. So remember, NBC has taken over, the NBC coverage has taken over. Instead of NBCSN, that is gone. USA is now their secondary channel, and they finished the race this past week on USA. So 3 p.m. Eastern time on USA, and on the radio with MRN and SiriusXM NASCAR radio. Taking a look at Ryan's stats at Road America, and we really only have kind of 2 stats for him. Last year's finish in the Cup Series race was 20th, and then he also had 1 Xfinity start there in 2015 where he finished second. So I think he started third, finished second. So those are his 2 stats at Road America specifically. But if we talk about Ryan and road courses, we say it every time we do a little preview of road course races. Probably one of the most underrated road course drivers in the series. In 21 starts over his Cup career, 12.2 average finish, 12 top 10s, 5 top 5s, and he does have that 1 win in the inaugural Roval race in 2018. His last several starts on road courses have gone fairly decently, and I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. This is a very long road course to begin with, and it's one of those ones where you really hope there aren't too many cautions, because that can eat up a lot of time. But can you describe the action that you kind of saw last year and maybe what we can expect this year?
Yeah, this should be really interesting, because this car will be totally different too. This car is supposed to be better suited for road course racing to begin with. But a lot of elevation change. There's an area there where a lot of fans sit, where they'll come out of it's literally like a left-hand 90-degree turn, and it goes up a hill, winding back through the country a little bit and coming back down the hill and then back up the hill to the start finish line. A nice long straightaway there, actually going past that finish line, going all the way down to turn 1, and turn 1 is kind of a tight turn. So there's areas to pass. There's areas and sections where they can go really fast, and pick up some good speed. I don't know. I think they just missed the setup last year more than anything else. I don't think it had anything to do with Ryan per se. I think, if I remember right, most of the Penske cars were not very good last year. But like I said, once again, this year is a totally different animal with this car. And they've been pretty good so far on road courses with this car. So I'm really excited to see what happens this week when they come to qualifying and everything. I mean, we do have a pole on a road course already this year. So not saying, but just saying, there's some things there that are definitely positive that could go our way.
Yeah, practice is going to happen Saturday morning. I believe it's probably going to be aired on Peacock again. NBC has all these different properties. They've been streaming with Peacock.
And you know what? I think the NBC Sports app still works.
Might have it too. Yeah.
So, there was a lot of complaining about the pre-race, this, not here, not there, and so on and so forth. And like I said earlier about like, if they were to put everybody have their own driver channel, that I would just buy that. If you really want it, you'll find it. And the people are complaining. I understand that you're complaining, but these networks paid a lot of money to own the rights to show the race. And then the way they make their money is off their advertising. And the way the advertising happens is based on how many people are watching. And they can tell more about how they're watching off their own streaming service than just putting it on regular air. But the streaming services, Peacock costs so much a month for like the premium, but I don't know. I think the free part of it, I think a lot of this stuff is actually on just the free Peacock. I mean, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but it's there for the taking. You just got to go log onto your phone and pull it up, or log onto your tablet and pull it up. So, and some of the cable services and stuff, it's actually on your cable service. So, you just got to find it. If you want to see the pre-race, you'll find it. USA is always seems to be on all the cable services, so that's not that hard to do. But they're saying that the coverage was really good because post-race, they're on Peacock. They're not competing with anything else. They're not trying to get within a time window. So everybody was complaining about Fox not doing a lot of interviews during that first half of the season. Well, now on Peacock, guess what? Turn into Peacock and they'll interview 8-10 drivers and whoever they can get their hands on. And maybe the guy, carting the tires back to the hauler or something, but they'll be on for as long as they need to be on. They're not up against any kind of time window where they have to be done by a certain time because something's coming on. So, that's a good advantage to actually having a streaming service, and for those who were like, well, why, you know what? Streaming services are coming to everything. Thursday night football after the first Thursday night game of this year coming up in the NFL is going to be on Amazon streaming. The NFL's doing it. So,
yeah, it's one of those things that's going to happen. I don't know that in the next few years they're ever going to go streaming only for any races. It always seems like it's going to be a companion. They did it with Peacock last year. NBC did, where they would do a simulcast on Peacock too for people that wanted to just stream. Mm-hmm. Worth noting that I think you mentioned it too. Like if Xfinity is a big sponsor of NASCAR. I think if you're an Xfinity subscriber, you can actually get Peacock, one of their premium versions, for free with your subscription. So if you're an Xfinity subscriber, you might want to look into that. And then the other thing worth noting, just in general, just about post-race, the big difference between NBC coverage and Fox coverage, Fox always bails out of post-race and that's it. It's over. They might get the victory lane interview. They might not. They might get a top 3 driver here and there. But a lot of times they were signing off as soon as they could to move on to the next programming. Pretty much every race last year, NBC would pitch it over to NBCSN, and then they would do a full post-race show, and it was great. I mean, that's one of my favorite things. Honestly, for this first half of the season, I've just, as soon as the race is over, I've turned the TV off and switch it over to my Sirius XM app and listen to their post-race coverage. That's always extensive, and they pretty much guarantee they're going to get the top 5 and beyond that. But as you just said, if you are a pretty big fan and you really want to get this coverage, you're going to seek it out and find it that way. You keep talking about following Twitter being a really important thing. Twitter is also another place where, Fox and NBC and other reporters out there, like reporters from The Athletic and others, post videos of interviews that they get too. So it might not be the interview you heard on the radio or the interview you saw on TV, but you'll get Ryan talking to a reporter that will post a video on Twitter, and they, for the most part, the drivers say the same types of things. So there's lots of ways that you can get all of that, but definitely going through the rest of this season, you just have to be really familiar with all the NBC properties, from NBC itself to the USA Network, which is new this season, covering NASCAR, and the Peacock streaming service. So once again, if you want to catch this race, the Quick Trip 250 this Sunday, July 3rd at Road America, 3 p.m. Eastern time on the USA Network, MRN, and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. All right, Steve, I have something to admit, and from what I understand, we might be in the same boat here. We took the week off from the podcast last week, and man, I took the week off from setting a fantasy lineup, which I think this is the first time in a couple of years this has happened to me, and I did not even realize it until the end of the second stage when it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, I should check my lineup and see if there's anybody I want to swap out of the garage, and then immediately realized, oh, I don't think I ever set a lineup. So yeah, walk of shame for me, and from what I understand, same thing for you.
Yeah, I did not have any of the bonus picks. Whoops. But on the other hand, I had a nice lineup actually. I had Denny and Ross and Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. So I scored all kind of points at least. I had Suarez as my fifth driver. But Chase was the number 1 in points on the day. Denny was number 2. Kyle was number 4, and Chase Chastain was number 6. So who knows what my lineup would have been like if I had made the correct bonus picks.
Yeah, mine wasn't too bad either. Again, yeah, I missed all the featured matchups because I didn't make those picks, but I had Chase Elliott, the winner. I had Daniel Suarez, who kind of had an up and down day. Had Ross Chastain, who got a decent chunk of points. Kurt Busch finished second, got a decent chunk of points. And Kyle Busch, who we didn't mention, from the race recap, how he took that 2-tire stop at the end and ended up getting caught behind, I think, the Keselowski and whoever else kind of got in that mini crash at the end of the race. And Kyle, I think, hit the wall. So his day ended up pretty bad.
Said something about in his anger, he decided to rim ride the wall all the way around the last lap. And then he got to 3 and 4 and just slapping the wall basically. So
anyway, yeah, so I had him as a starter, and I had Ryan in the garage, and so Ryan would have been the one that I could have pulled out of here, though I probably at that time wasn't going to do that. So unfortunately for me, I had a decent starting lineup, but did not get any of the featured matchups. So we could just jump into taking a look at the most points earned in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League this past week with the race at Nashville Superspeedway. We'll go through the top 10 here. Member of the Discord chat that's always very proud, and that he's won points earned a few times this year already. Cool Guy 2K with 252 points earns the most points this week at Nashville Superspeedway. In second, Bulldog 0277 with 242. In third, NASCAR Nut 12 238. In fourth, Frygal 12 236. Also tied for fourth, JD Racing and the Prime Minister 3 and Glitterbugs, all with 236 points. In eighth, Blaneyac 10 234 points. Tied for ninth, we have Math Mom 4 and Factory of Sadness with 233 points. And that pretty much rounds out our top 10 with all of those people tied in those various positions. With our issues here, Steve, you finished 37th overall with 200 points because, again, you had a pretty stout lineup there. So you were only 52 points off the lead without having any of those extra matchups. And I ended up in the 47th position, 176 points. So honestly, we did fairly well for forgetting to set our lineups. Let's jump back to the overall league standings here in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. In the first position now with 3,238 points, it's Frygal 12. In second, we have Math Mom 4 with 3,237 points. In third, the Dalai Lama 4, 3,217 points. Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing has tumbled down the standings a little bit here to fourth with 3,183 points. And fifth, Bulldog 0277, 3,180 points. Sixth, Eric D15, 3,165 points. Seventh, Supermod, 3,156 points. Eighth, Moose Hunter 1960, 3,153 points. Ninth, we have Two Bushes, No Johnsons, 3,151 points. Rounding out the top 10 in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League after Nashville Superspeedway is Blaney Kicks, 3,139 points. I made a big deal out of me finally supplanting you in the standings, but you take the lead back again when it comes to our podcast fantasy rivalry here. You are in the 25th position, 2,962 points, and I'm the 27th position, 2,951 points. So you've leapfrogged me a little bit there, just about with 10 points, and still plenty of races to go here before we hit the playoffs here in just the Fantasy Live League, and plenty of races to go to the end of the season.
Let's pick some road course ringers this week. What do you think?
I know you're always heavy on the Allmendinger.
Allmendinger.
Chase Elliott won the race last year at Road America, coming off this win here. So a lot of people buy into the big momentum that you can get. Daniel Suarez won his first race at Sonoma. Ross Chastain, his teammate's been strong there. Kyle Larson, man, he's I heard someone describing him as coming back down to earth this season. Wins 9 or 10 races last year. He's only got one win this year, and they've struggled a little bit. I think he did finish in the top 5 or top 10 this past week, but maybe this is the time Kyle Larson comes back to life here, roars back to life. I'm not sure, but for me, Chase Elliott's probably going to stay in the lineup. Ryan's probably going to stay in the garage because he performs pretty well, as we said, on road courses. Suarez might stay in my lineup too. He was really strong at COTA until he had an issue. Obviously wins at Sonoma. I have no reason to believe that he won't be in contention there. So I'm thinking at least Chase Elliott, Suarez, and I don't know, Denny Hamlin sometimes peeks into there.
Austin Cindric.
Yep.
Would be a good one at this point too. He's definitely a road course guy. Kurt Busch, and truthfully, Toyota. I mean, even Bubba, who doesn't necessarily like road courses, he practices hard at these things. And if they've got the speed, that's the interesting part about most of these guys right now. Even though they're not necessarily road course ringers, if they've got the speed, they show the speed. So yeah, practice qualifying be really interesting this weekend before I set my lineup.
The key is setting the lineup, though. So I might need to get in there and just do it preliminarily and then wait again, change it on Saturday.
Yeah, set an alarm right now for myself. I put it on my calendar right here. On my calendar.
So that pretty much wraps things up for the most part, but there is one other thing to mention, and this kind of came about over the off week here, in that the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation, who we, are big supporters of, and you as Blaney fans should also be big supporters of. They've got this fan pack together for the Brickyard road course race coming up. That's Alzheimer's awareness themed, and it's kind of a really amazing package where it's $75 per person. Steve, if you're watching the podcast here, Steve has the details up on his screen, but you get a reserve seat, you get a limited edition Alzheimer's awareness Ryan Blaney Family Foundation shirt that has that logo on the front. It has a big number 12 and Blaney on the back. You get a cooling towel that also features that logo. There's a Q&A with Ryan that happens when you're there on race day. And again, $75 per person. A portion of the proceeds goes to help support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Already know several Blaney fans that have already that followers of Team Blaney have taken up this offer. And I think it's a pretty great offer, because when you consider the t-shirt, the Q&A session, this cooling towel, plus your ticket to the race, $75, I think is a steal. And it's another great way to go out there and support the foundation.
Yeah, we're going. We've got our group together, and Jay and Kirsten are going, our friends that came with us to the outing. And what's cool about it is it looks like all the seats are together too. So go ahead and sit with some more Blaney fans, and it'd be really cool. I think I don't know if they're going to send the shirts ahead of time or not. But if they give them to us that day, that's awesome, because we'll all have the shirts. Maybe we'll all put them on together and be sitting down that section all together. Be really cool to see everybody wearing the purple all together that day. So,
and you never know who you'll meet. I know Steve and I have met a lot of people through this podcast and through our social media efforts. We've gained some friends. Steve and I became friends in the first place from just, meeting together as fans of Dave in the past at events. So you never know who you'll meet. Steve, Team Mez, there wouldn't be a Team Mez right now without some Blaney fans meeting out at the racetrack. So you never know who you'll meet. And again, this is just a great way to support the foundation. You can find out more about this ticket offer on Ryan has retweeted this on Twitter. Our account has shared it. The Ryan Blaney Family Foundation social media accounts from Instagram to Twitter to Facebook have all shared information on how you can take part in this ticket package.
One more thing while we're talking about, people that we meet and have met, if you've got Flow Racing, and you're catching this podcast early enough on Wednesday night, as you can see on the screen there, our good friend Josh Williams will be running on the Smart Modified Tour.
That's right. Josh Williams, the spotter, taking over the driver's seat.
That's right.
In an asphalt modified. Really looking forward to this one.
It's what they call it, the Smart Modified Tour. It's going to be on Flow Racing. It's really, really cool here. Bobby Labonte actually runs in this series, and I was clued into it. Josh actually posted something here and there about it last week or two, and I'm really excited actually because he ran a race last year. It's a car that I believe is something to do with his dad and some friends of theirs, and he gets a chance to run it every once in a while. So if you do get a chance and you're catching this Wednesday morning or something like that, Wednesday night, I think 8:00. Does that sound right to you?
It sounds about right. At what's Caraway Speedway, Flow Racing. And Josh, he's been around racing his entire life. We've had some in-depth interviews with him before. He's also a pretty prolific iRacer as well. He won one of those races during the pandemic that was on TV, that was televised too, and has a trophy to prove it. So it's really cool to get him to see him get another opportunity, at least the second time that we know of in one of these asphalt modifieds. And it's going to be some must-see TV for those of us that have Flow Racing.
Yeah, we got, I can't wait to see. Like I said, he pretty excited about it, getting to talk to him here and there about it. And he says, tune in and see if he falls out of the seat. I guess that's there's an over under on what lap he's going to actually fall out of the seat. But no, actually I'd be excited to see, and hopefully he has a good night and has a good time doing it. That's the best part. He's got, certain expectations, I'm sure, because he's a competitive person. But it's just going to be fun to see him actually having a night to enjoy himself doing something he loves.
Absolutely. So good luck to Josh Williams in that race with the Smart Modified Tour. But yeah, thank you everyone once again for tuning into this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. If you'd like to learn more about myself or co-host Steve, check out our debut episode from our very first season that dives deep into how we both became fans of the Blaney racing family. You can interact with us on Twitter and Facebook at Team Blaney and on Instagram at team.blaney. And finally, we've already mentioned them once, but worth noting again, we encourage you to help support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. This organization that's championed by Ryan and his family supports causes like the Alzheimer's Association and UPMC Sports Medicine. You can find out more about the foundation online at ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or on all of their very active social media channels. So, for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Brussels. Good night, Dublin.